Hi, Wheaton Montessori parents. I would like to take a few minutes of your time today to go over some of the things in our operating plan for the coming year that specifically require your help. Mrs. Fortune is going to be compiling a video very much like the one we sent out before summer camp that goes over what it will be like from your child's eyes to be back on campus. But for this one, I'd like to go over just a few things that we really need your help with as we return to the school year. As you look through our operating plan, you'll see that the majority of our requirements and recommendations align with what the local school systems and local larger corporations are doing as well. There are a few areas that go above and beyond the restrictions that you might be hearing about elsewhere, that after speaking with the county's COVID-19 education task force, we've decided to do in hopes that it further minimizes any risk of exposure to the children and the staff in our community. In a lot of these areas, we really will be relying on your transparency, your honesty, and your willingness to take on a little bit of extra frustration and missed school days possibly that you might not really appreciate doing, but recognize that this is just the year that we have to require it. We are going to have several bright line rules that just make it easy to say, this is what we're going to do. But there will also be a few times that as just people relying on you to help us keep people safe, that we just ask you to err on the side of overprotection. So again, I understand that there will be days this year that we are a little more frustrating than others, or where our policies might feel a little bit too restrictive for your needs for childcare or getting to work, things like that. But please remember that all of this is in place to make sure that we can provide a safe environment for in-person learning for as long as possible. So when in doubt, we ask you, and then we will also always err on the side of overprotection. So today there are a few items that I would really like to cover. And if I don't go over something in this video, or if you have other questions, please email them to me at discover@wheatonmontessori.org. And I'm going to be hosting a Zoom session during our staff week that I will record for any parents that can't attend, that will go over questions that were submitted in advance and go over any questions that come to mind as we talk on that day. So today I'm going to specifically be going over masks, drop-off and dismissal procedures, what happens if we get a positive case, and a big sticky one, what happens if we send a child home to get tested and their family refuses to test. So those are the big areas that require a lot more parent involvement and will be the conversations that you and I have together. So I'd like to highlight those now. So masks, we're wearing them. If we are within 6 feet of another student, child, or parent, we have a mask on. Your children have a mask on, and you need to have a mask on. That even our youngest students have shown that they are completely capable of rising to this occasion. We have grace and courtesy lessons happening in the classroom where we talk about how this is something that we're doing to protect our friends, it's something we're doing to protect our family, and it's something we're doing to protect ourselves. And that it's also one of the things we're doing just so we can be back in the classroom. And once we have those discussions and the students are engaged again in their work, the masks fade to the background of their awareness, and even the youngest students are able of doing it. So if a 2.5-year-old can do it in here, we ask that you also do it for the 3.5 minutes that you might be waiting in line to drop off your student. So parents, you are required to wear a mask at drop-off and dismissal when you're waiting in line, when you're talking to one of us at the gate, when you're signing off that you've gone through your preschool self-screening, and while you're waiting for that thumbs up for getting the temperature. Speaking of the temperature, the thermometer that we will be going on as of whether or not your child can enter is the one that we have at school. We're going to use the same one every day. There's a different one for every classroom building, so we know that we're getting consistent day-to-day measurements. If a child registers above our threshold here, it's 100.4 or higher. If they register at or above that here, they will be excluded from class. I understand that if you had 97.9 at home and we had 101.2 here, that is going to be one of those days that we make you mad. But if it was another child, we know that you would want us to err on the side of caution. And for all of the children in here, we have to err on the side of caution. So there might be days where our thermometer says something a little bit different, or our thermometer registers a little bit higher than yours at home. But for consistency and safety, we will go by what we are using here at school. Another thing as far as drop off and dismissal is that we understand that there are times that a medical office or a dental office or somewhere you have an appointment that cannot be scheduled outside of school hours. In the coming year, we ask that you plan accordingly, knowing that we will not be accepting late arrivals or early dismissals at any time other than the ones in the operating plan. So if you are a late arrival, if you have an appointment in the morning that you've just got to get to, you can't schedule it any other time, please plan on arriving and waiting at the gate right outside of my office window at 12:10. It's right after the noon dismissal. I'll already be out there. I can have the thermometer, we'll do the screening, and then you can go on to your class. Teachers will not be able to leave the classroom during the day to either escort a child out for early dismissal or accept a child in for late arrival. I will be doing that from the gate, so we ask that you do that at that specific time. That way we can keep all hands on deck within the classrooms on making sure everybody is observing best practices for hand washing, sanitizing, all of that. So if you are leaving early, if you have an afternoon appointment, noon is the time that you would need to pick up. So again, this is one of those times where it might be a little frustrating because you think, well, our appointment's not until 2:30, but to keep the classrooms going and to limit exposure for all of the classes and to make sure that the teachers are still on hand, we are asking that you abide by that policy. So the big one, the big elephant in the classroom. What happens if there's a positive case? Now, right now, this is our biggest nightmare. We haven't experienced it, so it is blown completely into nightmare waters for us. We've been speaking quite a bit with the county's education task force to make sure that our plans align with what they need, and in some cases go a little bit above and beyond. So even though we hope it never happens, we are making our plans right now for what to do to keep everyone else safe and their risk exposure as minimal as possible. So if we have a positive case in a classroom, my first call is always to that DuPage County education team, and they will go with us from the beginning who we need to call in order to be sent home to quarantine and get tested, and what level of closure the classroom will need to undergo. Every single parent in the entire school community, if we have a case, will get an email saying there's been a positive COVID test within our school community, and we will give you the name of the classroom. Excuse me. We will not be giving any family names or student names. So you'll know if there's a case on campus, you'll know what classroom it is in, but the family name will be protected. If you are one of the families that the county, and looking through the teacher's notes and looking through the classroom setup and seating assignments, things like that, if you are one of the ones that needs to be quarantined, I will call you and let you know. The students will be isolated on campus so that there's no further risk of exposure going on while we're pending pickup. Or if it's at the end of the day, we'll say, sorry, no school for the next little bit. If you are part of that circle of exposure, you have to quarantine for 14 days or supply a negative test that is within 72 hours of trying to return. So the big thing I want to point out here is that I said 14 days. Right now, the CDC has just lowered it to 10. We are still requiring 14 days of quarantine if you have symptoms, or if you are a positive case, or if you've had close contact to someone that's a positive case. Now, the worst case scenario for us is if we send a student home, or if a student has just in their extracurricular life exposure to a positive case and that family refuses to get tested. So we don't have confirmation that it's positive, but we don't have that safety net of knowing that they tested negative. What do? So after speaking with the county and telling them what our plans were, they absolutely signed off on it and said, yes, this is what we want you to be doing. It's not what is required yet, but it's what we want you to be doing. So here's another part where we're going a little bit above, and it might feel a little restrictive if it happens to apply to your family, but because we owe this huge debt of responsibility to the families that are trusting us this year, we're erring on the side of overprotection. So if a child has been sent home and the family has refused to get tested, that child is determined in our eyes to be a positive case. So until you supply us with proof that it's negative, we assume that it's positive. And we will go through that entire procedure with the county and with quarantining and isolating to make sure that we are doing everything we can to mitigate the risks of exposure. So it might be very frustrating, especially from a child care standpoint, to know that your family is being asked to quarantine because you've been in this tight circle of exposure to a child that hasn't actually been confirmed to be positive. But we will not risk having a student come in that we believe has a very high probability of being positive and risking exposure to the other students and staff members here at school. So this is one of those spots that we just say, we know it's frustrating. Please work with us so that we can continue to be in person and be safe for everyone on campus. So there are a few smaller items that I just want to go over because they've been some of the biggest questions that we've had. So things like, how is the cleaning going? How often are you sanitizing? Are the kids even happy to be there? Are they sad with the masks on? So I'll go with cleaning first. Cleaning and sanitizing is happening all day, every day. Every material that comes off of a shelf is cleaned and sanitized before it goes back on. Tables that children are eating off of, or lunch tables, are sanitized before they become work tables again. Hand washing is happening before and after every single activity, before and after eating, before and after going to the bathroom, of course. But it's just a much heightened frequency for hand washing. If hand washing isn't available, we have hand sanitizer in every classroom, automatic dispensers in every classroom, and then at every entrance and exit point. The big thing that I would like to say, after being here for nearly 8 weeks now for summer camp, I can with full confidence say this is still a very joyful place to be. I hear laughter in the hallways. I hear giggling and shrieking and happiness from recess on the playgrounds. The children are showing, and the staff members their faces just show this total gratitude to being back in their home away from home. Like I said, the youngest students are capable of rising to the occasion of mask wearing, of the hand washing, of everything that we're asking them to do in order to be at school, and they are very proud of their role. So I would say for those of you that have seen kind of some pictures of other facilities that it looks institutional or it looks kind of like factory learning, I'd like to reassure you that our classrooms still look very much like what you signed up for and what you bought into at that first tour when you walked in and said, wow, this is what I want. The children are working together safely. They are working together happily. They're out at recess and playing and being children. And for us to be able to provide that is just a huge relief to all of the staff members. We're so proud to be able to do it. The thing that I would ask is that as we move forward and trying to do as much as we can in protecting your child's home away from home, that you do the same for us, to be as open as possible about travel plans, about kind of concerns that you have about, a new cough that's coming on, things like that, so that we can all continue to enjoy this time back together for as long as possible. And if you have any questions, I am at discover@wheatonmontessori.org. Rebecca and I are here every day this summer answering the phones, answering emails. We're happy to talk through any concerns, any questions, any questions that you have, even if it's what kind of protein should I send for lunch now. Please reach out. We want to know that we have answered every question that you have before you even get in line on that first day of school. We want you to come knowing that you can trust us to do everything we can for your family.